Kent, appreciate your time. Just tell us about how spring practice went. You got a lot that you're evaluating right now,
Yeah.
four different guys competing for one job. What kind of production were you able to get out of the spring?
I'll tell you what we did. We tried to give each guy even reps and to make sure that each of them got a full complexion of our offense, right? So it didn't just have one guy just focus on the drop back game or the RPO game or whatever. We needed a full cycle for each guy. And what it did is it obviously creates a little bit of issues with respect to consistency because they were taking pauses for plays. They didn't like that much. They didn't complain, but you can always tell. But we needed to do that to be able to make sure that we were tracking their progress as far as their understanding of every aspect of our offense, and also to properly grade them in their decision making and their physical execution in each aspect of the offense. And so I thought that the competition was really strong. We've got a really good room. We've got good guys in our room. They're very competitive. They want to be the guy. And the good news is I think we have four guys that can play.
Coach Freeze brought this up after the spring game that he's never exited a spring, headed into an offseason with up to four guys battling for a starting job. Has that ever been the case for you, or has it always been you had two, maybe three guys that you had an idea?
Yeah, it's usually been 2 to 3 guys, typically two, right? In my past, don't know that either one's better than the other. I certainly would rather have a bunch of guys that we feel like have an opportunity to play and can perform at a high level for us. It's makes our job maybe a little bit tougher with respect to the final decision, but that means that we have some talent in that room.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, in this era of college football, it's become increasingly more rare that a quarterback with a potential first-round NFL draft, potential transfers to sit for a year.
Yeah.
When Malik first got here, what were kind of your evaluations of him? And do you feel like that year behind Buckshot, helped him? How do you feel like that year maybe changed his path here at Liberty?
Everything that's in front of Malik is really a credit to Malik. He came here with a great attitude. He knew he was going to have to sit. He didn't complain. He worked hard. Obviously, the defense wanted him to be the scout quarterback because of his talent. What better look can they get than to have him down there? But Malik really spent a ton of time making sure that he learned the offense and understood the nuances of the offense and what was expected from this position in the year that he sat out. So he didn't just go away and was a scout team quarterback, but he applied himself right to make sure that he came up the learning curve such that when we went to spring of the year that he was eligible, his first year, he was ready to play. That's a real credit to him.
How special has this process been for you? And I guess what will Thursday, hopefully, whenever that moment comes this week, what will that be like for you just to kind of see it come full circle with him getting drafted?
Well, I'm pretty close with Malik, and his family, and it's really awesome to see good things happen to really good people, right? That whole saying, nice guys finish last. Not in this case, hopefully, right? With Malik, so he is as humble, probably the most humble player I've ever coached, who's also the most talented guy I've ever coached, which is a unique combination. And just really, really happy for him that he's going to have an opportunity. We'll see we'll see how it plays out, on draft day. But real credit to Malik's diligent work ethic and humility to be in a position that he's in right now.
As far as Malik handling just the unpredictability of this NFL draft, what's his demeanor like? Have you had a chance to speak with him?
Oh yeah, all the time. I speak with Harold too, his dad. I mean, he doesn't change. I mean, Malik's not going to change. I mean, Malik is who he is, and what you see with Malik is exactly the way he is every day. Malik understands that you have to make the most of an opportunity. And I mean, if anybody gets that right now, it's Malik, because of his transfer from Auburn to here and sitting out a year. And so all Malik wants is an opportunity to go in and perform and to prove his value and his worth to that football team. Malik isn't hung up on where he gets drafted, when he gets drafted, who he goes to. He just wants to make the most of whatever opportunity is afforded him.
So if that's the case, does it matter where he's drafted, or does
Well, it does to me, but I'm not going to say.
No,
Yeah.
but as far as the value for going to
Yeah.
the right situation,
Yeah.
to a franchise
Yeah.
that
Right.
can cultivate his talents, how important is that for him?
It's real important. The great quarterbacks always want to be coached in every aspect of the game, not the least of which is fundamentally coached, right? And Malik's no different. He wants great coaching, and he wants to be hopefully in a situation where he has that. He's in a system that will exploit his skill, his skill set. And he's got unique skill set. But at the end of the day, Malik, it's more important to Malik to be given an opportunity to properly perform. And not every team's going to run the same offense, and not every team's is looking for the same type of quarterback. I don't know what the teams are looking for. The ones that came through constantly to talk to me during the season, but he does need to be in an environment where Malik's very relational. He sees everything through a relational lens, and he's a really, really hard worker. And Malik will shed himself of all distractions, right? So he's not going to be one of those guys that's going to have a bunch of stuff outside stuff that's going to interfere with his progress and his development. And he's soft-spoken, and Malik only gives you enough information to answer your question. Right? I mean, he's not going to sit there like I'm doing right now and talk and talk and talk. He's going to answer your question, and if you want to pull more information out of him, then you need to drill down a little bit with him. But he'll stay there for hours, talking about football and answering your questions. So the coach that coaches him needs to understand that about him, and they will very, very quickly. And that's really important to Malik, to be in that kind of environment.
I asked Coach Freeze this, and I'll ask it to you too. The overwhelming majority of everything I've heard from the pundits, the experts, everyone coming into the NFL draft has been positive on Malik Willis. I hear a few critiques here and there. One I heard the other day from Merrill Hodge, specifically saying how he thought Malik would stare down blitzes, sometimes miss throws down the field because of it. What's your take on that? And then what are some of the things that you think he needs to work on at the next level and have a chance to improve on?
Hey, I'm not going to comment on anybody else's critique. I mean, it's everybody has an opinion. I totally understand that, totally respect that. If you haven't coached the guy every day, you really don't know, right? And you really don't know his ability to learn what is going on from a decision-making standpoint, because you don't know what his decisions are supposed to be on any given play. So trying to evaluate a quarterback on film without an investigatory process to determine the basis of his decision-making, I think is not very fruitful, right? So that being said, Malik has not played a lot of football. He's played 2 years of college football. And his upside is really high. He's a lot more accurate of a passer than some of the pundits think. I think they found out real quickly on his pro day and down at the Senior Bowl how good of a passer he really is. His knowledge of football is much greater as well. I used to hear that coming through. I said, well, you clearly don't understand. Let me explain to you what he has to do on our offense, and maybe you'll change your opinion on that. I think his interview process, through the course of this draft season, I think changed a lot of minds there as well. He's going to be a student of the game. He does need to be coached fundamentally every day, because there were some fundamental flaws, that we inherited with him that, you can't just think you can coach that out of a player one time and that it would stick. It doesn't work that way in this position, in my experience. So the things that you know that he might revert back to fundamentally has to be coached constantly. And so a good quarterback coach, I'm sure he'll get, will recognize those things and make sure that those are coached out of him and where he has a level of consistency that allows him to play and deliver the ball accurately at that level. Malik, he needs to learn a lot. He needs to learn the NFL game. He needs to learn the pro game. I mean, there's different hash marks. The ball's always in the middle of the field. There's different defenses. There's things that the NFL will do a lot more than you'll see in the college game, and certainly that more than what he saw in our last 2 years here at Liberty.
Ken, you have the unique perspective of being a former executive in the Canadian Football League and having to evaluate talent that you wanted to sign to your roster. Did you have conversations with executive or general managers and such from the NFL ranks? And what were those conversations like regarding Malik, whether it be 2020 or this past year, about the upside of his potential?
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
next
that's a
level?
really good question. I mean, some of the things that we talked about, I don't feel comfortable talking about here. Some of the unique challenges in front of Malik, in playing this past year. I'll say this, I mean, any talent of evaluator worth his salt could put on the film and figure it out, in my opinion. But lots of discussions in a lot of different areas, from intangibles to physical attributes to areas of his game that need improvement, types of throws that need improvement, decision-making, what is on his plate as far as communication to get a play called and snapped, how he understands defenses, how he goes through those processes of defensive recognition, all of these things, all the way down to his personal life, to how he spends his time by himself when he's not at the facility. I mean, when you're talking about a potential first-round pick as a quarterback, really any player, but especially as a quarterback, they're going to thoroughly do their investigation to make sure that they know what they're getting, when Malik arrives.
More and more, these early round top quarterback prospects are expected to see the field quicker and even succeed quicker. And adding on to that, the evaluations on those players end up coming quicker. Does that put more pressure on a guy like Malik, who is in that upper echelon of QBs expected to be taken? And how do you think he handles that wherever he ends up?
Malik's going to be a complete pro. I mean, Malik is going to do what his coaching staff asks him to do. So how they want him to prepare, he'll prepare that way. How they want him to practice, he'll practice that way. What they want him to focus on, where they think there is maybe a deficiency, he'll go and focus on that. Like, he's going to do what he's told. All Malik wants, just to cut right through it, is he wants to be at a place, whether it was in college, whether it was, whether in the pros at the next level, that can get him to his ceiling and develop him in all aspects of being a quarterback. And he just wants guys around him that can do that for him, because he knows he's going to give everything that he needs to give to accomplish that. That's his sole focus. He's just going to go to work.
As far as Malik's improvement, is there one area since the end of the season where you, as a coach of his, have seen improvement and go, wow, I've been trying to get that elevated and he's finally showing that?
No. I'm just kidding.
No.
No, I mean, look, I don't want to say this politely. Doing drills on a field and doing different drops and different play action drops and off-platform throws and throwing on the run and fighting your body to get awkward body throws. And you can do all that stuff, in shorts and a T-shirt on air. That's all that's going to tell you is what is his physical talent. that's not going to tell you how he's going to play the game, right? The worst thing that ever happened to quarterbacks in football, in my opinion, is 7-on-7. I hate 7-on-7, and the reason for it is because it's completely unrealistic to the environment that a quarterback's going to find himself in. They take lazy drops. They don't have anybody around them. There's no pressures. There aren't people collapsing the pocket on him. I mean, you rarely now in football have a pristine pocket to throw the football like you do in 7-on-7. You rarely have that because the defensive linemen are just better than the offensive linemen physically. And so you have to learn a skill set on how to get the ball completed in a lot of different scenarios. And dropping and seeing his base and his weight on his back foot and a wide base short step and those things, that's great. And you can drill all those things, make sure his hips are right and his release point's the same and all these types of things. But does that transfer at game time? And so as far as improvement, let me get to a camp. Let me watch the camp tape, and I'll let you know. Yeah, when he's got guys flying around trying to tackle him.
I want to ask you one or two just about the current team here. I mean, we talk about Malik all day, obviously, but just your guys that when they left spring practice and you're not with them now. What was your kind of challenge to them or takeaway to get ready for August?
Well, each of them had a different plan. So our exit meetings were tailored, obviously, to the individual player. Each guy in my room needs a different focus to get them to shore up areas of their game to help them stay on a constant increase in improvement, and to make sure that they have a self-awareness and an honesty to see it the way that it really is, right? And we really like self-aware players, I do. And that's one of the, not to bring it back to Malik, that's one of his best traits, is he's not an excuse maker, and he knows where he's deficient, and he'll be the first one to tell you what he did wrong on a particular play. So each quarterback in our meetings were given the statistics for spring. So every single play that they take a snap, the decision making and the physical execution was graded every single play through the entire spring, and then that is given to, and it's gone over with each quarterback. Because what you find is that you'll find minuses that cluster in certain areas typically. Let's say it's in the decision making column. You'll find minuses that cluster in a particular aspect of the offense. That tells me as a quarterback coach where I need to focus that individual. You rarely see it where the minuses are evenly distributed throughout every aspect of the offense. That's typically not the case. Same thing with physical execution. What types of throws is he missing? So now we know what to focus in on, that they can then take on their own until we get them back as coaches and have our hands on them. They know what to go when they go watch the film, when they watch the spring film, when they're on their own doing these things. They can focus in on the area that is the most critical for their constant improvement right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No. For your quarterbacks, how do you balance the honest feedback part and, frankly, getting them to understand how you mentioned a defensive lineman having an advantage over offensive line with the fact that the O-line, there were different combinations in the spring, there were injuries that were involved, and that may not be whatever they're actually playing behind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They talk about it. Trust me. I mean, they don't talk about it necessarily to my face, but I know they talk about it between them. Look, the expectations for spring for the entire group was set up front, right? And so all of that was covered. What they needed to focus on is when they were in their pod is to make sure, first and foremost, that their decision-making was correct. Because it's the number one thing we look for in a quarterback, is the ability to make great decisions. I mean, if he can't do that, his physical talent doesn't matter. He's not going to put our offense in a position to score and for us to have an opportunity to win a football game. So that is by far and away the number one quality that we look for, And so what we tried to do is blend, right, the distribution of the plays with the quarterback such that we can uncover where there might be a lack of understanding in a certain aspect of our offense with that given player, and then get that corrected, again, to get them to improve. So the quarterbacks understood that going in. They understood they weren't going to get 8 plays in a row or 12 plays in a row unless it was a live period in a scrimmage and that they sustained a long drive, with the offense. And they had to operate under those constraints. And part of that's good as well, because we see how they react to that, and see, can they get over their frustration level? If they're not having a great day, how quickly can they snap out of it and bounce back? I mean, we want to see resiliency. That's part of the third attribute we look for is toughness, mental toughness and physical toughness, in a quarterback. And some of the environment that you find in spring brings that out, and we're able to evaluate that as well.